Think about the last time someone rejected you. Maybe it was something large, a relationship that ended, a job you didn't get, a friendship that quietly stopped being a friendship. Or maybe it was something smaller, a message left on read, an invitation that never came, a room where the conversation continued without you. Now think about how long it stayed with you, how many times you returned to it, how much space it took up inside your mind compared to the actual size of the event. Because here is the thing about rejection, it almost never hurts in proportion to what actually happened. It hurts more, sometimes dramatically more. And the gap between how much it logically should hurt and how much it actually does is something most people spend enormous energy trying to explain away. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I care too much. Maybe there is something fundamentally fragile about the way I'm built. But here is what none of those explanations account for. Every human being experiences this, across cultures, across personalities, across every conceivable difference in background and temperament and life experience. The sting of rejection lands with a weight that logic consistently fails to justify. And that is not a coincidence, that is a design. To understand it, we need to go somewhere that has nothing to do with relationships or social situations or anything that would look familiar in a modern life. We need to go to the moment in human history when your brain made a decision that it has never reversed. It decided that rejection and physical pain would be handled by the same system, not similar systems, not adjacent one, the same one. In 2003, a researcher named Naomi Eisenberger placed participants in brain scanners and had them play a simple virtual game with two other players. At a certain point, the other players stopped including them. No conflict, no words, just exclusion from a game, with players who didn't even exist. And the region of the brain that activated was the same region that activates when you stub your toe, burn your hand, or experience any form of physical injury. The anterior cingulate cortex, the brain's pain processor. And what made this finding genuinely extraordinary was not just that the same region activated. It was that the intensity of activation correlated directly with how much distress the participants reported feeling. The more rejected they felt, the more pain the brain registered. Real pain, measurable pain. The same kind the body generates in response to physical damage. Your brain does not know the difference between a broken bone and a broken belonging. To your nervous system, they are the same category of event. And once you understand why, the disproportionate weight of rejection stops feeling like a flaw. It starts feeling like exactly what it is. An alarm system calibrated for a world where social pain and physical pain carried equal risk of ending you. Here is that world. 50,000 years ago, your ancestor wakes up and realizes something is wrong. The people around the fire are not looking at them the way they usually do. Conversations stop slightly too quickly when they approach. An invitation that would normally have come hasn't. To a modern mind, this reads as a social discomfort. Awkward, perhaps worth addressing, but survivable. To the ancient brain, every one of those signals reads as something else entirely. The beginning of exclusion. And exclusion, in that world, was not an emotional experience. It was a survival emergency. Without the group, there was no coordinated hunting, no shared protection through the night, no one to carry you when injury made walking impossible, no one to watch your children while you recovered from illness, no one to stand between you and the next threat that arrived too large for one person to face. The group was not a comfort. It was the entire infrastructure of survival. And so the brain evolved an alarm system for social threat that matched, in intensity and urgency, the alarm system for physical threat. Because both carried the same potential consequence, the end of you. Now hold that thought, because the brain didn't stop there. It didn't just build an alarm for rejection after it happened. It built a system for detecting it before it arrived. Your brain monitors your social environment constantly, not occasionally. Not when you consciously decide to pay attention. Constantly. It tracks subtle shifts in tone, micro-expressions that last less than a fifth of a second, changes in the rhythm of a conversation, a slight withdrawal in someone's energy before they have said a single word that would explain it. It is running a continuous threat assessment of your social environment the way your other senses run a continuous assessment of your physical one. And when it detects even the possibility of rejection, before anything has been confirmed, before anything has been said, the alarm begins. This is why anticipatory rejection feels almost as bad as actual rejection, why the dread of a difficult conversation can be as physically uncomfortable as the conversation itself, why you can lie awake rehearsing a rejection that hasn't happened yet and feel, in your body, nearly everything you would feel if it had. The ancient brain does not wait for certainty. Certainty, in the world it was built for, often arrived too late. The brain that detected the early signals and responded immediately was the brain that had time to act, to repair the rupture, to correct the behavior, to do whatever was necessary to preserve its place in the group before the group made its decision final. And the mechanism it used to motivate that action was the same mechanism it uses for everything survival critical: pain. But here is the layer that makes this even more complicated. Because the pain of rejection doesn't just hurt in the moment, it echoes. Think about a physical injury. You stub your toe, it hurts intensely, and then, fairly quickly, the acute pain fades. You don't lie awake 3 weeks later replaying the moment your toe met the corner of the table. You don't reconstruct the event from different angles searching for what you could have done differently. You don't feel a fresh wave of pain every time someone mentions furniture, but rejection replays. It comes back in quiet moments, in the middle of conversations that have nothing to do with it. At 3 in the morning when the rest of your mind has gone still. And every time it replays, it doesn't replay neutrally. It replays with the same emotional charge as the original moment. Sometimes with more, because the brain assigned it to a category that physical injuries don't occupy. Threat to belonging, and threats to belonging don't resolve the way physical injuries do. There is no equivalent of the wound closing, no visible moment of healing to signal that the danger has passed. No biological update that says the threat is over and the alarm can stand down. And so, the alarm keeps running, checking, returning, searching for a resolution that the ancient system doesn't know how to define. Now here is the part that most conversations about rejection leave out entirely. The people who feel rejection most intensely are not the weakest ones. They are the ones whose social monitoring system is running at the highest sensitivity. And that same sensitivity, the one that makes rejection land so heavily, is the same sensitivity that makes them attuned to other people in ways that most others are not. They notice the shift in someone's energy before anyone else does. They read the room with an accuracy that seems almost intuitive. They feel the emotional state of the people they care about, the way some people feel changes in weather. The capacity for deep connection and the capacity to be deeply hurt by its absence are not separate traits. They are the same trait, measured from opposite ends. A social monitoring system running at high sensitivity gives you both: the extraordinary attunement and the extraordinary vulnerability. You don't get one without the other. And here is where this matters in the way you live. Because most people who feel rejection intensely spend enormous energy trying to become less sensitive, to care less, to feel less, to build a distance between themselves and the people around them that will reduce the surface area available to be hurt. And sometimes that works, in the sense that a smaller fire produces less heat, but the system you are trying to turn down is the same system that makes genuine connection possible. The same one that lets you feel the joy of belonging as deeply as you feel the pain of its absence. The same one that makes you the person others instinctively trust with the things they don't tell everyone. Turning it down costs more than the protection is worth. Here is what the research actually suggests instead. Not a thicker skin, a clearer understanding of what is happening when the alarm fires. When rejection lands and the pain is disproportionate, when the replay begins and the middle of the night feels suddenly very loud. When the anticipation of being excluded feels physically indistinguishable from the exclusion itself, you are not falling apart. You are experiencing one of the oldest alarm systems your species ever built, doing the job it was made to do. In a world where the stakes are almost never as high as it believes they are, the alarm is ancient. The threat it was built for is mostly gone, but the system never received the update. And so it treats a read receipt with the same urgency it once reserved for the beginning of exile. Not because you are fragile, because you are human. Because every single person who ever lived in a group and needed that group to survive carried some version of this. The ones who didn't feel it didn't fight hard enough to stay. The ones who felt it too little didn't repair the ruptures before they became irreversible. The ones who felt it and responded, who cared enough about belonging to let its absence hurt, were the ones who kept the group together. Who maintained the bonds? Who did the difficult, necessary, unglamorous work of staying connected to other people across all the ordinary friction of being alive alongside them? Rejection hurts this much because belonging mattered this much. It still does. And the pain is not proof that you are too much. It is proof that connection, for you, has never been something you could take or leave. It has always been something you needed. And that was never a weakness. That was always, from the very beginning, exactly the point.